Dear Fox News and Fox News judges, dear Judge Napolitano, I trust you and think that you're a good person. I think that everybody is a good person. Is a nature that wants to be good. But it is recorded that we are tactical ulterior from that native value progression system that causes positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and demonstrates that it wants us to understand how and why our identity/IES, individually grouped and as a species identity of volume/S, how and why it wants us to value ourselves more than other species, but it also wants us to know exception is not, there are no exceptions except in demonstration of the simultaneous. When we are not valuing that identity of value progression, that inventions work or not in relationship to it, what is simultaneously true, always, as exceptions, as its own identity as truth. See, we are prevented this by people offensively needing to pretend other, so they have to pretend things like passions and emotions with politics, rather than care for mandated law. Simultaneously, they have to pretend to be about mandated law. So simultaneously, we have been increasingly prevented uses of the increasing value of the correlation/discorrelation forced by a breaching method that was already having been forced upon those countries forced to use names associated with and as such. And see, that's styles of logic, styles of treatments of positive and negative forced by nature itself. Nature's identity, which is a relationship to positive and negative simultaneously, which is the identity of value progression, not as a person, as an observable value progression. There's one identity of value progression that inventions work or not, a relationship to their further positive or negative or not. So, history's facts show that there were criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments that were simultaneously with criminal insidiousness of negative treatments as people that were defending roles within as titles, identities of ground locations, instances, relationships, to slavery of everyone, including especially those people hurt most by it, and by that method that has difference taken to this ulterior from its, what it actually is in demonstration of is the invisible but still discernible. So anything like the entire earth, we bring the earth into as a subject because we have possession of enough of the finite parts of it, enough of the grouped parts of it, and enough understanding of what it is altogether. We have the Trinity is only discernible by discerning its identity of relation to itself, and the value of that. So criminal insidiousness is in demonstration that, like a criminal insidiousness, especially criminally legalized criminal insidiousness in nature, which our founding parents wanted us to clearly have not obfuscated. We don't have to debate. See, they're forcing debates since kids are the youngest ages about what is not debatable unless simultaneously is being self-valued. The elements of correlation and discorrelation and identity impositions. For example, slavery is increasingly, nature demonstrates negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures to any system that values slavery a part of it. As it makes people criminal insidious natures. So the devil, the proverbial devil, an archetypal criminal enterprise or a breaching method, even if it was wrong. There is enough evidence to blame it on it that it came from semi-ancient times, since before modern nations' religions. Practical people, sensible people, calm people do not speak when they interpret the artifacts of history, because they leave this out. The importance of understanding how internation sciences were already criminally foreign influenced. They were demonstrably tactically denatured before modern religion's founders. And it has a relationship to where we are individually grouped in together. Because we can't help because its system works not talking with words, demonstrating its value. Its value transfer to itself is how it is self-increasing value as one identity of volume. That's we get into theory. But that is being forced, for example, when they force people want to debate what is not debatable, and with physical delusions, which would have been revealed, but there are rules, crimes, predators, originally and still with all locations, areas, states, all formal positions standing, a formal fact treatment nature. Now this knew that though such identities would have to self-value, what they could perpetually exploit by already having had such in layers already, just like computers, to its function, its method, its archetypes. So we have to have the whole world simultaneously understand criminal insidiousness and archetypal criminal insidiousness, and why and how we have to use the words, phrases like criminal enterprise, archetypal criminal enterprise, and like predicate acts, and predicate acts delivery system method, and identity. But we have to use it without entertaining the physical delusions and the rules, crimes, predators, methods, and styles forced by nature, self-valued as lawyers, private, and everyone's opinions that are offensively predatory and pretending other, simultaneously like physical delusions with words like power. There is not one standing member of interbranch who could speak for power in a protracted way, because power has been, these are criminal insidious natures of positive, like when they say integrity. They have to speak that through contrast to countries that were hurt longer by what our founding parents were already fallen to too. They didn't the okay, there's a constitution, everyone follow it. There was an entrenched method. Since before cars, the pathology of infrastructure from here to Russia, across the globe. All difference in demonstration, the same thing though. All sickly distinctly, so we don't see how sickly non-distinctly, so we can perpetually play that. The whole world is tactically denatured. Everything that is not overtly tactically denatured is landscape theater. We are not by accident dependent on mass-scale farming and mass-scale narratives with jobs. How fast is chasing the jobs agendas and narratives with politics going to fix the mass? Go on YouTube and look for or when you see on television not you, Your Honors. I mean like the people. I say Your Honors because this is part of our species too. So you guys are backed into and as an overt criminal enterprise. Archetypal criminal enterprise. With the overt criminal enterprises, private ones originally and still. All identity ground locations in collusion with that which has no integrity, where and how correlation nature has questions and expected and needs answers, really with integrity. Because all the answers to American history are simple. They are short words that use what is true always in native pure. And so that the understanding that sequence what really divided and conquered them. What really were the artificial hacks of history. What really was behind and is behind the meaning of Marbury versus Madison. Real justice must satisfy all the appearances of real justice. They just playing trick games, like a breaching method knew everyone would. To stay, they also knew that abridged sciences, self-valued as victims, would blame on other things other than themselves. The negative value nature progressions, acts of nature that it knew nature would cause that weren't caused by anyone. But they would need to be reacted to as syntax nature by everyone, all fakes. We're using methods of leaning on, pretending not to realize how forced leaning on the experts, like of mental health. They have been fabricating audio and video, fake conversations with me and others, people that weren't at all, through time. A Leahy family, whole generations of them. They have kids with the same campuses through time, attaching kids inter-campuses, intra-campuses to roles with predicate acts. They have roles with programs with other countries. They have roles with people on, off fire campuses in Hartford, Connecticut, and Wethersfield, Connecticut. Games with people's names that are used specifically to keep us from addressing the avert/simultaneously insidious identity thefts and frauds against black people and against white people simultaneously, sickly, unevenly, but constantly, non-distinctly. If anyone cares about peace that's not weaponized, they would care about that. But that's not what people care about peace. They have instances where they leave out the sequence shift roles. They're making the sequence shifts tied to bad things, and they're making that self-value with each age. Because then it's tied to all that's tied with the fake positive and negative integrity. And when they think other people have opinions, they have styles of people making allegations against people with how they respond. And so they use words like behavior. There are only 3 branches of government, as clear as day, and night are about to clear, where the clear is about. Why is it a clear value? For example, why is Earth different from what is Earth's difference in the rest of the space nature? Science reveals it is our difference in relationship to the identity of value progression. That inventions work or not in relationship to their positive or further or not in relation to. For example, we have to address all the natures and motivations for roles with uses of words like positive, where they left out criminal and seditious nature, where they left that up to lawyers to define, where and how the lawyers themselves are recorded evidence, individually grouped and together, not just the bar and the relationships to the bar, which is a relationship to identity of the ground, locations. And as our identity of volume, again, increasingly ulterior from being native. And while being native, where and how we are valued, no matter who, if we are Native American or not, we are valued as nature. Nature is native. Nature is sequence true. Excuse me. It is the value of sequence true. So, Wethersfield Police, they called me about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and they said they don't want me to use the name Colola. They're involved with different falsified police reports, and 3 times they forced me to Hartford Hospital for mental evaluation. After I caught them first, fabricating audio and video with people before a principal sex offender before he even got caught. More then and now, and federal criminal co-defendants, a former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, in a 2006 case, and their family members. And they just attached all the plaintiffs and defendants to words other than they say through time, other than they pleaded. They pretended also with WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, and WTNH. They have roles with investigations, and people's perception tied to how they use crime methods where they're filming things, while simultaneously are being and having been created, they create instances where there's no way for anyone to respond, communicate, because those instances are created by both simultaneously by foreign and by interbranch need to hide the same sequence shifts, finite active progressive lies, identity thefts and frauds roles, and styles, and uses of tactically criminally foreign influence premises treatments, sequence treatments, finite active progressive, and identity treatments. So we have needs and means for the nations that want and need stability economically to shut it down and to ensure that long term by extending, what can't be afforded unless it's free. And, which is the means from everywhere to concentrate it. We have to bring all identity to the ground. We have to claim as syntax nature. If we want to cause positive value nature, progressions, acts of nature, means out of nowhere, everything what it is. For example, all identity to the ground locations is before cars, with slavery apart with their narratives. Their natures of unities. Pseudo-unity. Or unity too is not positive. So this hurts hospitals all the time. This hurts the police departments all the time. This hurts the judges all the time, specifically for the reactions. It's perfected of doing that since before our founding parents were even born. Witch trials are proofs of that. Even if they were made up, how they present them are proofs of it. Right around the corner from where George Washington had to come to, Wethersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War to secure the French general's help, thank God. They had to leave slavery in Wethersfield, Connecticut, though. It was still entrenched. That method by sickly distinctly in the North and South. Wethersfield, Connecticut, here between New York and Boston. They're still involved with identity thefts and fraud, sequence shifts, evidence perception racketeering, private simultaneously, and on off those locations. We have people that simultaneously act, and we have people on a mass scale. There's only 3 branches of government. They're both styles individually grouped together, pretending that they can't understand how people could not be able to find words to respond to things. Because if they do, simultaneously, if they do respond, they're not allowing anyone to tell when people attach us to lies simultaneously. And there's exploitations of this. And there's uses of the lie, there's exploitation of the lie progression from it. And this is also relevant because these are people involved with a whole bunch of natures of sick crimes and crime scenes like real and or made up. Sandy Hook. There are people from Sandy Hook, Newtown, with a prison in Newtown, Connecticut, that are involved with predicate acts through time with Wethersfield, Connecticut interbranch and military involved with identity thefts, frauds, taking pictures of things, make it look like people know each other so they can keep time delays because they have evidence racketeering that the courts already are involved with, where they fabricate audio and video by just fabricating fake transcripts, attaching kids to fake locations, by just saying things into records that are made up fake lie. Their motivations for it are also how they use everyone's family members and neighbors. They are victims, but as victim predators. They would rather be called predators so they could have the debate about it and keep restricted subjects from all the subjects that ties to them, from this identity of relativity that demonstrates its relationship. It makes people criminal insidious natures for denying the identity of the identity of relativity by denying its identity of relationship to itself or the value of that. And, even if it's I'm not caring, Why are they pretending passions and emotions then? Passions and emotions were to keep us able to see and to keep individuals capable of, wanting, needing to see this correlation and to voice about it. A positive value nature progression when we are positive as individuals, groups, or as a species. It is only when all three are simultaneously. This is in demonstration, for example, when something is really positive to your body, all the identities of everyone's body. Your identity, it's positive onto them simultaneously. So you have a whole bunch of different identities of cells. The cell could be a cell nucleus, is a distinct identity. Cell body is a distinct identity. Cell wall is a distinct identity, but they share an identity. And all those identities share a semi-nature relationship to your identity. And that is correlation as proof. And as discorrelation as proof too, because there are a lot of other theories that don't make sense. Like, for example, about what caused slavery. And they bring up money, and they leave out the breaching method that our founders wanted, needed simultaneously every day, us to be understanding more and more. We're not allowed to speak about it because we have the modalities and the functions of each age of fact, attribute nature, each age of nature of difference of campus employed to make an array of fake difference, increasingly self-valued, to exploit that. So we have dozens of people from, like, two Carone brothers, I don't know them. And in other words, they try to make instances that pretend other proofs that they filmed me when around them, and there's a Mark Violet, a Justin Klavinskis, and a Danielle Perron, and they all said that they were her boyfriends. I don't know Danielle Perron. She pretended other with her boyfriend too, a couple of times. It has something to do with their roles with insights into downtown Hartford, which is across from the state capital of Connecticut, and people associated on and off the state judicial branch all along Route 3 and on off the media locations, Fox, Connecticut News, WFSB, that are also involved with predicate acts stacked into databases. Now they put arrested kids where they have the police go to the schools, and they have the sense and sensibilities of the schools wanting good types of kids, so they don't have kids around bad kids. Those same passions and emotions are roles keeping the same outcomes for the same interest, but shiftingly, because that is all bound by that method that knew that this was sophistication here before us, which that's not native sophistication. It's sophistication as a criminal and citizen's nature, as a method's roles, a human fact, attribute nature breaching method, a syntax nature breaching method, as criminal and citizen's nature of positive and negative inclusion, wherein how feature fact we are, quality is fact, attribute nature. So, people that are roles exploiting that, they're trying to start fights and keep fights, or keep her weaponized between me and Gayle King. I don't know Gayle King. But WFSB recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they attached me and others to fake words from before the World Trade Center attack and since. They have people that are involved with the interpreting languages and teaching people about languages that were also involved many ways, criminally foreign influenced, and with their uses of everyone's family members. So they're keeping all victims. If you say that, try to treat like that, they're going to make you tell by how they're a victim predator out of sequence, because how the courts have are involved, needing to hide life progression, same thing, and how the police form a director of the FBI down. And how the only way we can do this is addressing them all personally. We can't sue them personally. We can't force them personally with the law instead of them forcing us to hide their life progressions, to hide their criminal incompetence with passions and emotions, and with the faith they put in the prisons tied to them. Recorded clear as day, kept with family members, kept needing to hide life progressions and further roles with the principal sex offenders campus. The family members associated with that campus, and they had a community meeting about me they put in the news. They also told lies about me as a kid, having mental diagnosis. These are also people with Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed, involved with investigators through time, vetting identities through time, and a whole bunch of other nations like Afghanistan, Asian countries. People associated all along Route 3, like with the Oliveri family and a Justin Levinsky's, but also Joshua Stryker. I had nothing to do with Joshua Stryker. Tried to pretend other one time. Then they lied about me and stuff like that. They made confessions about an Oliveri house near a bridge, being associated with making bombs, like they were making bombs and things like that. And then they were using that with the people, slander you made with houses next to the state of Connecticut Judicial Branch offices also, which that's right down the street from them. Now, these are also people, a whole bunch of people from, I don't know if they've ever been to Central Connecticut State University, but so they're involved with predicate acts, Trinity College, Central Connecticut State University, also with the methods that the branches use, forging and switching names. So they have deans that switch names. These are also people involved with like pension thieves and stuff like that, who had their kids in my grade, involved with my and grades a blow above me, with people associated with a police chief years ago, and one now who's been for years, associated with a whole bunch of people like a Dillon family with foreign and domestic military. They overt criminal enterprises per their classifications of them. It has them roles with time, sequence shifts, illusion stacking, and uses of my name and confessions roles, and roles with them replacing what is actually recorded over Facebook and tied to their roles with uses of campuses and of Wethersfield Police, intra-cities, not just in this city, and intra-campuses. Their roles stacking predicate acts, illusions, and roles with life progressions, and with methods where if you respond verbally, they're going to hurt you and everyone else one way, and if you don't respond, they're going to hurt you. In other words, investigators, and just everyone's perception itself. Was his employed ill? Was his employed criminally foreign influenced? Now, see, we have to understand together as a species simultaneously how and why we have to use that, not in relationship to other countries, but in relationship to what is fluent and has been fluent through our countries, self-value. So we have to check our own and blame others simultaneously, while they're going to be trying to exploit them, having to admit non-integrity. This is a maintained outcome. They showed, I believe it was the same name reportedly as the new principal of the principal sex offenders campus. There was a neighbor of a Mr. O'Connor. So I only had him when you're in a class with a whole bunch of people. I never had a personal conversation with him. He was a nice guy that came from New York. But then there are people. He was a jogging coach, and they have a method by uses of the coaches, the intelligence community, the ones where they're criminally foreign influenced, where they have predicate acts and roles with that predicate acts delivery system method with other countries, and their motivations with that recorded. These are also people involved with insurance companies, investigators. So they use all the people as victim predators. They don't have an identity of the law that could afford correlation nature short words and or nor means. So discorrelation is increasingly valued. So where and how there are not enough jobs is because that method that's against every location that knew and knows which actual integrity of perception knows that the jobs narrative, especially with that theater of politics pretending it doesn't realize, is not the answer. Reliefs that are not injunctive reliefs and blaming the right thing are not the answer. Reliefs that are just narrative has to be positive onto all positions at once. If it's native pure, that identity, but that causes evolution's fruits and gifts. Not only inventions to work, but not to work, but to be further positive to itself, as itself. So God is more practically to the ancients was an algebraic variable in relationship to those 5 distinct identities of sequence/simultaneous nature of and as the same identity of volume. So we have the 3 identities of sequence/simultaneous nature that are bound further: cell nucleus, cell body, and cell wall, where the cell walls connect. And between that and through and within that, there are gases, and there is the earth and water, and everything is in demonstration of its method. But we are prevented free speech by branches of government that make allegations against us, and they have family members. So this stacks up names, and they have colleagues, and this stacks of names that people that value sequence shifts, people that value means to lie about behavior, people that value that already haven't been done in databases, people that value campuses and natures of areas that have been long, all areas. We'll examine how all. There's not one. If there was one worthwhile school of science /S, that would instantly be there would a lesser school would automatically be that. All the money that goes in for technology and things like that. These answers are short, but they're not for bridge sciences. Oh, but this is about people who want to go into life and stuff too. We want to be campus. We want to have a nice life for people. That's why we have to address the vertical and horizontal database racketeering. Worse than war crimes. That's how they had military involved with it. With the people associated with my name and pretending to know me through time who maybe they filmed an instance when I was a kid. So with a fire department that then later was timed, involved with an Oliveri family, a Joshua Stryker. The Oliveri, Eric Oliveri and his brother. I never had a conversation with his brother either. In other words, these are also people involved on and off Town Line Drive. But on and off Two Route Highway with the Dillon family. People involved with the military that are involved with identity theft, frauds, wire crimes, and like sequence shifts, child abuses, medicines crimes, drugs crimes roles with people they speak through others, and where they have their fabricating police reports, stacking fabricated audio and video into the branch. And these are the same people with the north end of Hartford, with the white-black narratives in Wethersfield into branch too. They have complete possession over the victims, used as victim predators per how they use other people's names. Like the black kid who confirmed years later, one of the black kids who involved, who confirmed years later, not realizing non-verbally outside of the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices, roles were recorded juxtaposed natures of remote uses of courts and of police forms. Former director of the F.B.I. down. I didn't know his name yet, Robert Luskin, in a 2006 district court case. Leading up to that case and then other cases, leading up to other cases, he was his roles with predicate acts against people of all ages. They also have remote uses of elderly homes and of regular people's houses next to them. Now this is where they use the sensibilities, this is where they use the positive and negative treatments of everyone. Where simultaneously this knew that the locations, areas, and states, branches of government would have to self-value all roles with them in the overt criminal enterprises and the private ones, and killers and people next to the bodies in some spots already. Investigators used to hide their own personal mistreatments of actual equality of what is true. See, that there is that one identity of truth that does not deny the finite. I saw an ad on CNN, and Martin Luther King Jr. was saying, forget the, so we're not going to be afforded the finite. For example, and there are proofs that he was going to come back, and that President Chief Kennedy was going to come back because Kennedy said there's a conspiracy against this country. Proof. He was shot. They have simultaneously passions and emotions with all this care, but then if you try to have mandated law followed, they won't follow. They won't back up those passions and emotions. Like with Sandy Hook, they're only using their passions and emotions because these are people that call up police stations because they're kept needing to hide life progressions. They're kept needing to hide their actually recorded natures as criminally realized criminal and ceaseless natures, self-valuing that, having self-valued it. So they need to hide their life progression from that spot. They need to hide from the words of the people. So they value further and further roles distinctly from, but also non-distinctly from, the all private tied to them, kept needing to hide the same sequence, just fine life by being sicker than killers. Most killers. And with their uses of it. And then they contrast themselves. And pretend to hate and torture, have roles with the sick tortures, with the delusions too. See, there were rules, crimes, predators though. And then they have all these narratives, switching narratives. They have fake sides of opinions, fake arrays. So all this is recorded, all tied to my same street. Forced roles with these police forging and switching names. So some little punk called me from Wethersfield town offices. They're switching names with it. It said he was Officer Sullivan. Wethersfield police confirmed it was an officer. Then he said it wasn't his name. Now, see, there are other people tied to people on the child sex offender registry that are further involved with the Wethersfield town offices and with the Wethersfield library. And Wethersfield police attached me to fabricated audio and video, fake quotes. They have various natures of courts, judges, and family members involved. Also, other police forms, state police involved with remote uses of investigators. Because we have remote uses of identities of law themselves, like F.B.I, CIA. And so such is not debatable about with lies and delusions, which we would get, and with criminally foreign influence premises treatments, and with rules crimes, predators, standing. So that's what we have. We have more tied to the World Trade Center attack, proven after the context, right before the World Trade Center attack, post-dated documents had been shown to the Ninth Circuit Court, right next to the right next to the World Trade Center. Now, there's a Leahy family attached me to fake conversations about that. They have roles with the family members and the people with predicate acts with that. Also has their roles with on and off campuses connected, acting when they film things. Like, I don't know Phil Clough, and I don't know who lives in the Victorian house on Two Rod Highway. But that house, their neighbors, Chris Walters, his mother, a whole bunch of people involved with judges and prosecutors involved with foreign and domestic medical racketeering and identity thefts and frauds, with private school kids, also involved with the interbranch with the databases where they have the inter-campuses and intra-campuses stuff manifest, and where they have uses of conspiracy theories, of delusions wrought psychologists, and ones with badges fabricating audio and video and trying to make exceptions to exploit. And when there are none, those are the people also trying to make exceptions with the locations. These are also people recorded following people through their lifetime with the same families, trying to pretend they know them, with the same ties between them. We'll come back down to the locations next to the locations next to it as the media locations and the buildings they're housed in, and next to it as people involved with predicate acts on off the campuses. So they have the sense and sensibilities of courts and police forms that need to have problems between kids on campuses, so they could have the passions and emotions of abridged sciences that are in their collusion with those sick people really involved with everything, you know. So Wethersfield police have a bunch of people with the name McGee and that fabricated different police reports, and they confessed and recorded. They confessed as a threat, as a confession that they only have one McGee. But they were confessed and recorded to me and others that they have more than one Officer McGee. Now, this is the first time was 3 months after my father died. And with my new and past neighbors are also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated having been influenced to roles knowingly, but also knowingly or unknowingly, but also mostly unknowingly, with predicate acts on and off Trinity College and on and off CCSU, with intelligence community, and with the people that are involved with a whole bunch of other countries, not legitimately, where and how they're pretending passions and emotions too, where and how those passions and emotions were recorded, used to effectively force sustained abuses of little boys and girls. Now, this has used all private programs with the kids. This used the child abuses with the church then and now, still preventing people from online using other people's names. Truly. This uses methods of hurting online platforms, so they want to, because then people will complain. And they leave the complaints to the police forms and or to the courts, who are using it to hide their own personal life progressions, which is differentially kept criminally foreign influenced and delusions raw. But again, they are rules, crimes, predators, methods, forging and switching names. So they have you guys saying that courts present things in writing. They only present exceptions so they can pretend other, because they fabricate audio and video. They lie about people's behavior. They put fake transcripts and fake audio and video transcripts and attaching little kids to fake locations, fake ties to doctors. Now these are courts forcing people to take drugs that are causing people physical problems, and they don't care. And now these are people also because they have the locations where they do that too, where they're patients and criminals and people involved with undercover police. I don't know if they are themselves, but they're involved with this Dillon family, involved with kids and training of kids, with military, foreign demand, involved with identity thefts and frauds, where they pretend to film fake things. Same ones fabricating audio and video with the name Sullivan now too, with the name McGee's. And I can't get anything in writing. And the courts use crime methods where they pretend to perceive things, and while they've been fabricating audio and video, and where and how they're lying about their faith, about their integrity of their faith in the others, all tied to them. Experts leaning on experts, and why? Like on the mind, they can't think for themselves, so they play these games, and they pretend other. Then they just lock people away, and they did that and do that to force uses of their kids. There's a Leahy family's got a little daughter now. They have generations of that family associated with various natures of courts, prosecutors and judges, family members also involved with predicate acts with the kids, pretending passions and emotions with federal criminals since before they were caught. They are kept needing to hide the same sequentious, final act of progressive lies with their worst patients and criminals, not by accident. These are bad people because they're victim predators. But to heal them, you have to follow mandated law. We need to get a response for the Brendan Leahy and Brian Silver involved with New Britain Superior Court and with Hartford courts leading up to the World Trade Center attack too. And then since there are involved also with locations used interstate, intra-cities, and at the end of in West Hartford, and the businesses and the policing of them near there, because they have complete possession over the identities of the law originally instilled. Victim predators incapable of defending themselves as fact-cheating nature, as syntech nature, and us from what it uses that remotely. It has used it remotely. So we have to address what they force sustained with the grammar schools, because then that is confessed and recorded, exploited, and further tied to locations next to the middle school and next to the other schools simultaneously in connected ways through time that are exploited, being and having been exploited through time to control your mind. So respond, please, for them forging and switching names into branch, or have them deny this on paper. Fox News, and please do it timely. Through administrations is also recorded evidences where and how the interbranch has been using the sense and sensibilities of the online platforms that they also keep as victims specifically for that, by their roles with passions and emotions out of sequence, and where they say things where there's no means to counter without saying things where the other fake sides and unrelated people at the same time for the same method are needing to further their roles with identity thefts and frauds. That's why everyone goes around saying karma and stuff like that with physical delusions, using criminally formalized premises treatments. So we have a world of witch doctors, delusions, raw predators, pretending other, and using other people's names. This is worse than extortion, Your Honors. I'm asking for a long time. I've been asking for a response. There's a KNERR. There are accounts on Facebook associated with KNERR, which is one of the accounts associated with the Britain Superior Court. Further involved with you guys, with the principal sex offenders campus. The same ones involved with Sandy Hook, a serial killer's body dumping spot, and military police and their family members involved inter-cities with those same locations, involved with identity thefts and frauds, uses of sense and sensibilities of their wives and kids, where they have other people's names used because they were used as kids for predicate acts roles, for identity thefts and frauds roles, for little tricks they have, for real motivations. These aren't legitimate stewardships of anything. Now, evidence of it is that they're not following mandated law and on time, and while they're fabricating audio and video and keeping you guys collusion and keeping everyone isolated, keeping all exceptions and exception nature employed, you need to pretend other. You need to, that. So, all answers are here. So people who are misinformed, they are keeping the people predators where they go on the Congress like that, where the Congress didn't have the Tangler 2020 or whatever. I donated that to one of the administrations. I don't remember. Someone asked to finish that invention. You shoot the thing and it tangles the people. And see, we should have a series of commands that people learn in school. See, after it goes by this word, now people are going to get arrested. And you make getting arrested scary and hurtful, not the way they do it. They have it scary and hurtful, specifically as a method used to prevent anyone from telling on what they were or actually involved with locations. It is since founding. When they had slavery, you don't think they had to hide lipoaggressions, pretend their integrity when they were or not. Even though there was a breaching method that forced it, wasn't there? And people were calling them for, "Are you white? You have that?" So everyone's in a trap. We admit the trap by admitting tactically denatured identity ground relationships. Forced. We admit their existence. We admit that we say, "Oh, tough it up, get a job." You see, what's sane knows that there are not enough jobs fast enough, and there are not one of them is the value of a human. So they keep the value narratives all tactical ulterior from the native needs by our words with like value/value progression. We are a value/value progression. See, they keep the words like instances for everyone, for a whole bunch of. It's a simple method that is databases oriented, but exploits and keeps that outcome from keeping it with all locations and through the people pretending to be against it, because it's a breaching screen that was propagated to be self-value too much for any founder who to get any kind of unity capable of doing anything other. So there are no means to defend the surface values of the Constitution simultaneously. And that's because we have opinion natures and conviction natures of everyone, A through Z, in collusion also with the branches of government's opinions and conviction natures. Sequence shifting styles, mandated law, prevention predators. That's mandated law offensively prevented by that breaching method with those laws they had. And where everyone had to follow a syntax nature. See, we leave this out. Thank you, Nick. Please respond. Please help me call the campus. Let me call the campus. I'll show you how. And just tell them, have no fear, and I won't have to talk about their families personal. They brought me up with a town meeting. I'll even, discover. We just know I need to know the people. I need to know the names of the people who brought me up. And they pretend they want privacy. That's also tied to and as people because of the method they use with the little girls and boys, sickly distinctly on and off campuses. And these are the same ones involved with elderly homes and with the locations next to them through time, all tied to the same house. Forced to roles with them, forging, switching names with the narratives with the Sullivan family. These are also people on associated with Park Street in Hartford, near the state capitol building, with the name Sullivan, tied to a tiki bar, who was involved with police associated with medical locations, fabricating audio and video with judges and prosecutors, attaching little kids to fake locations. Their roles with confessed to me and others rapes by connected girls by that, and roles with uses of that by the same groups pretending to be about women's rights and stuff like that. They're really only furthering issues where they're keeping men and women individually grouped and together, tactile ulterior from how we should be naturally and how we would be naturally if they weren't roles with the exploitation of illusions stacked in databases, originally and still, where and how that was is already exploited. They're already invested to roles with locations, pretending illusions, where and how they simultaneously force, trick, hurt, and persuade and have that happen as the wrong outcomes in cases. That's what's recorded manifest the correlation / discorrelation in relationship to why black people are more forsaken than white people. There was a sick breaching method here that never let go. Vaccines of snow alone. So we could just get over this junk real fast by admitting, a bottom that is worthy of a top named America, that is actually worthy. We have to free our Marbury versus Madison doesn't mean pretend to be an adult better than the next guy. Marbury versus Madison means real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. We have interbranch forging and switching names. You have them using aggression out of sequence, as also roles with sexual and medical and medicines crimes. Fake conversations about legal cases with the families involved with the case, with the whole remotely used branches of government. Please, Your Honor, just have the one of the news people say he's right. WFSB attached him to the fake words. There are investigators that communicated with us with his name and associated with the uses of how we played softball together at Millwoods Park. Millwoods Park is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated intra-cities haven't been involved with people with insights into whatever's all like they have Russians also associated. There's a woman who repeated that she was Russian, associated with Hartford Hospital, and with these families involved on my street with predicate acts, with foreign and domestic families with drugs and medicines crimes, also on the principal sex offenders campus. Same ones involved with predicate acts with them, in locations next to other campuses in town. There's a Dr. Graham, who's a female doctor. There are a whole bunch of people with a state forensics location. They're also associated with Joshua Julian, recorded involved with that forensic location, with predicate acts, with overt criminal enterprises, people who are associated with bodies dumping spots. Their roles with evidence racketeering cover-ups, with judges and prosecutors involved with uses of Facebook, as their roles with sexual and medical crimes that are also World Trade Center attack, and their uses of their roles with the investigations of that. So with this Leahy family is also recorded involved with the investigators of military, doctors with badges, doctors of psychology, sick. Really, you can't discern that no one with competence spoke for logic when they speak about American history. Not you guys, Your Honors. I'm saying, we're gonna counter the rape threats. We're going to counter the confessions and the demonstrations. There's also there are people with interbranch associated with, in the intelligence community, associated with a robber, a Mike Roberts. I barely know him. They were used. They made instances where they could pretend other, but they did it in context where